Thank you. My name is Liz Klein, and I teach in the special ed department, and I teach mostly graduate students. So I teach a lot of incoming teaching fellows, so they really bond together, but I'm going to share my. So I think of hope, belonging, and confidence going together. I see a lot of students coming in with the absolute lack of hope. They're full of anxiety, they're full of fear. They some of them kind of even wear a badge of I have anxiety. So my job, I think, has been since the pandemic to foster hope, and that's part of belonging. And for some students, the school experience in general has been negative for them. Even they talk about, since these are elementary school teachers in training, they talk about, mostly we have conversations about how their school experience was, and many of them have had challenges in school. So what I want to do is talk about how they can be hopeful, so we can spread the hope and they can bring it to the work that they do. Spread the joy, spread the confidence in themselves. So like Josh, I appreciated your work. We did a lot of community understandings. And the first starts with a safe space. So making mistakes is okay. When we're imperfect, we speak to each other carefully. We do our best. We agree to disagree. We try not to have any kind of put downs. And if we have to talk about something that goes outside the classroom, we do it, in a professional way, maybe meeting during office hours. And students really form this bond when we have fun together as well. So I build in fun as part of the class. And I quote from the slow teaching, the slow professor, that positive emotions are linked to social relationships. So I want to get students in the mood, especially at a 7 o'clock class, because at that point they're tired, they're hungry, they have dogs in the background, kids in the background, and I want their attention to come together. So we start out by singing into the classroom. We do some singing, which sounds corny, but it changes the paradigm. We also speak chorally, so I ask them to unmic and speak all at once, something I used to do when I taught high school. And it brings out a sense of belonging. It also brings out a sense of confidence, because if they make a mistake, it's just like somebody else drowns them out. We engage in sharing writings that make us vulnerable as well. I talk a lot about vulnerability, and I sometimes quote Brene Brown, and we use the chat to lift each other up. There's something called the praise shower, which I want to try. I haven't tried it yet, but it means that everybody writes something positive about the speaker all at once, and you hit send. So that sounds awesome. I'm going to try that. And the idea in the classroom is to mix and mingle, because learning is a social activity. John Dewey talks about that. And not everybody mixes and mingles the same way. I've learned that, over the years, I have had observations. I was an assistant principal where we were taught to be bean counters and count how many kids were answering and how many times the teacher got responses. I don't want to be a bean counter. I want people to raise their hand willingly. I want people who are introverts to belong. If they want to be an introvert, I have to create activities for introverts, and I do. I have breakout rooms, the chat. Sometimes I did a self-assessment recently, and a lot of the students wrote that they were still afraid to raise their hand because that's their personality. It's not personal. So I've learned to go with that and not be a bean counter, and not be a bean counter for myself, for others, or when I do field observations. This is how I also build peer-to-peer connections in class. Start with a check-in. I think almost everybody does at this point. I use Padlet a lot. I think it's incredibly flexible. They can write something. It's very low stakes. I have peer leaders. I have pair share. I have peer feedback. I also do long-term projects with what I call peer pods, where they belong a whole term. to each other and they pick each other. So if they don't like each other or they get into conflict, we work it out. That's part of work. You know, when they graduate, they'll be working with people, so they have to learn this. I have a peer mentor that volunteers. She helps people outside school. She's just a student in the class. We have a WhatsApp group that was precipitated by the students, not me, and we use a cohort model. So, confidence building. Confidence with small things in class leads to competence. So I start with some small, low stakes questions and build the confidence, and that leads to competence. And I allow students to really say, hey, I don't know the content. I really never learned that in school. And that makes me feel really good when they tell me that, when they're honest. Things I do. I lead with encouragement no matter how tired I am and no matter how unenthusiastic I feel some days. I fake it till I make it. And I'm a big believer in growth mindset, and I teach the students about it. Open-ended shares, check-ins, clear boundaries and deadlines. I think that's really important. And I model belonging by speaking of how I work with other faculty members. And, you know, I even tell them about the projects I do. And I try to relate their work to what they're going to do when they graduate. Not just you're in a group to be in a group because it's a project, but when you go out and you're teaching in the world, you will be working with others. So final thoughts: that learning is social. William Glasser said this, and so did John Dewey. There are different types of belonging. I love the work in Slow Teaching, and Slow Teaching is one book, and The Slow Professor is another, talking about how introverts need to have their day. I don't want to be a bean counter. I notice that students perk up when we go into breakout rooms. They're excited. I let them have a lifeline, and I want everyone to just have a pleasant school experience. So, thank you.